This episode of the all-new Marvel Roundup is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. To get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code SOUTHGATE to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
Hello and welcome to the all-new Marvel Roundup, the Southgate Media Group's guide to the Marvel Comics of the week. As always, I am Phil Parrish, and joining me is...
Charlie Esser!
And we've got a big pal, but most of this we read together, but I will start with one I read on my own. It's all-new X-Men number 11. I'm assuming this is the last part of the Apocalypse... Well... Yeah, it looks like this might be the last part of the Apocalypse Wars in this book, anyway. Because as you've heard the last couple issues, Beast and
Evan.
Yeah, Evan. Yes, yeah, Hank and Evan have been stuck in like the past in ancient Egypt, and then so it opens up with Evan and the original Apocalypse, well, before he became all apocalypsy. They were basically running the safety, but then they got that message about how Hank had been captured, so they go back and they find Hank all tied up to the X like we talked about last issue. And they find the ancient sorcerer. Basically he wants the original Unsabin Nur because I guess he wants him to be Apocalypse, so they rush in to free Hank. It's a trap. They get captured, but they the original Unsabin Nur holds off the troops while Evan and Hank take off, and then after, as they're riding away, Evan and Hank are talking, and Evan's like, well, how can Apocalypse be the monster I always thought he was? You know, he was willing to come back to save you, a person he had never even met before. And then he's saying, I can't leave Egypt until I know he's safe, and Hank's like, no, I can't let you do that. And Evan's like, no, you don't understand, he's a hero, and he's like, Apocalypse doesn't exist yet. Not here, not yet. We can wipe it all away. And Hank's like, at what cost? He's like, our very presence here in the past could have irreparable consequences to the timeline. He's like, imagine the butterfly effect extrapolated out over thousands of years. Every step we take puts the future at risk. He's like, and you're talking about snuffing out one of the most profoundly influential villains in all of human history. That's the biggest butterfly of them all.
But of course, not for nothing, Hank Pym or Hank McCoy, aren't you also just completely outside of your own timeline? And where's he getting off?
Yeah, I thought about how hypocritical that was, but they did try to go back to their time, and for some reason they couldn't get. Time machines weren't letting them go back to their own time.
Yeah.
But they do end up going back. I guess Hank doesn't want to leave the Eye of Horus laying around, but he can't find it.
Yeah, you don't want to leave something like that lying around.
Yeah. But then I guess Hank does find it. Then I guess the old mystic is doing something to change Unsabin Nur into Apocalypse, and Evan's like, no, this is the moment. But Hank uses the eye to drag them out at the last moment.
Aww.
Yeah, so then they get back to the present, and they get back, and Hank's like, it looks like it worked. He's like, Evan, when I was wearing the mask, he's like, the third eye of Horus, it showed me. And Evan grabs the mask and says, give me that. He says, nobody cares what it showed you, Hank, just like you didn't care what it showed me. And Evan throws the mask.
What did it show Evan?
They didn't say. Hank didn't say.
Oh.
Hank didn't get the chance to say what it showed him, and Evan didn't say what it got to show him. Although I'm guessing it's Apocalypse. I don't know.
Or maybe the history was influenced, but slightly. Sort of like when Loki sent what's her name, Leah, back in time to be kind to the serpent, which gave the serpent a soft spot, which allowed Thor to strike at him, and that whole storyline.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, it was good. It was a nice wrap up. I mean, kind of predictable, but still, I enjoyed it. It was a thumbs up.
Okay, no, it sounds good. Actually, from my perspective, it wasn't very predictable. I 100% thought this was going to be that either original Abin Sur comes forward to the future and Nathan stays back to become Apocalypse, or Abensor dies, and then Nathan becomes Apocalypse to keep the timeline safe.
Mm-hmm.
I was so waiting for that. I was so waiting for that to be the outcome. Although in this breakdown, you actually get a very interesting point to Nathan, which is that without this Apocalypse ceremony that was brought about, he doesn't become Apocalypse. Which means that if he never has that ceremony, he will continue to be, just Nathan.
Mm-hmm.
Nice kid.
No. All right. Well, then I will go to one of the other books you didn't read, Guardians of the Galaxy number 10. Again, I think this is another tie-up to this arc because it starts off on planet Mord, Moord. It's the home planet of the Brotherhood of the Badoon. The Emperor, King, or whatever is sentencing Peter Quill to death. They throw him into an arena, and he has to fight like these big humanoid alien things. They're telling him he has to die and die for the honor of the Brotherhood and all the entertainment of all lucky enough to bear witness. But then we see the Guardians on their way as they're like blowing through the Badoon's like ships and defenses. And then back in the arena, one of the King's men comes over and says, "Leader, I have word." And he's telling him the Guardians have escaped, and they have. He must be talking about Angela. He says, and they have the Odin's daughter, but it's after Odin's. It's Dottir.
Well, they don't know how to spell. They're trying to give you that Badoon accent.
Yeah. And the King's like, how many Badoon are stationed on that planet? And the guy's saying hundreds of thousands, and elite forces, thousands. And he's like, and how many of these Guardians of the Galaxy are there? And he's like, it fluctuates, sir, but 5. And he's like, 5? He's like, 10 maybe. And the King's like, we have their leader. And the guy's like, well, intelligence says they don't have a leader in the strictest definition of the word. And then King says, I want to speak.
That.
Yeah, and then the King says, I want to speak to the warden. And the guy says, he's dead, sir. And they said, and he goes, security footage shows that the one known as Drax the Destroyer kicked his severed head off the roof of the warden's tower and laughed at it for an uncomfortably long time.
Oh, Drax.
Meanwhile, Peter actually took like one of the big aliens down, and he's like giving it like a flying elbow in the arena. He's yelling, snap into a Slim Jim. And the King's just asking, I want to talk to the deputy warden. Dead, sir. The leader of the elite team. The elite team is, well, it is no more, sir. So basically, they're
not
all
quite so elite.
And Peter's like yelling up at them. He's like, I don't mind dying like the valiant intergalactic hero that I am. But he's like, but the least you could do is pay attention. And then the King's like, then they're asking, where are the Guardians now? Someone says, I imagine they're headed this way. Then the King's like, we are the Badoon. They are just a few. We are an interplanetary system of Badoon. We are this galaxy's future. We do not cower in the face of... And then he stops when he sees a hand come through his chest. Hi, I'm Kitty Pryde, Guardian of the Galaxy, and I just phased my arm all the way through you. It's a thing I do.
Oh, Kitty.
Peter's like, say what you want about me, but I have excellent taste in women. And Kitty's all threatening them. She's like, let him go, or I'll pull my arm back out of your leader and, bring as much as I can of his insides back out with it.
Yeah. No, I'll say this about Peter Quill. I think that, saying he has excellent taste in women, it's like saying a broke clock is right twice a day.
Yeah, I know. But so the King said, we are the Badoon. We will not surrender to you, Earther, or any. And Kitty says, fine, and pulls out, one of his internal organs, whatever it is. It doesn't look like anything human, but yeah. So then the troops open fire on her. She phases again, so they end up shooting more of their own troops.
Oh yes.
And Kitty
phasing. It's a good power.
Yes. Kitty's like, I'm usually not this violent, but I have a real problem with you making a planet basically into a concentration camp for... And then the ship shows up. Peter starts yelling, yes, 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 and the Guardians all come out.
Yay, Guardians!
Nah. And they basically just go to town on all the Badoon. And then Kitty and Angela, I guess, meet for the first time. Kitty saying, Kitty says, Angela, nice to meet you. And Angela says, you are the Earth mutant Quill was fallen for? She's like, I don't see it. And Kitty's like, well, you're welcome for the rescue. And Angela's like, more importantly, you saved one Badoon leader for me. I am eternally grateful.
Oh, as Guardians.
Yeah, meanwhile, the rest of the Guardians are mopping up. Like, Ben Grimm's, like, leaping at one of the guard towers going, oh, clobbering time, I love you so.
It is the most magical night of the year.
No.
Friday night.
Then Rocket comes swooping and he throws Peter his guns and he says, hey, Quill, make yourself useful for a change. And Peter says, oh, shut up, you're having the time of your life. And Rocket's like, well, you got me there. And then Peter's saying it's impressive how they all got out of the concentration camp, and Gamora's like they had help. So I guess they took all the prisoners and turned them into an army to help them overthrow the Badoon there.
Yay! Take that, evil Badoon.
And then Peter's saying, "Oh, we should get out of here," and some of like Gamora and Drax don't want to leave, and Rocket's like, yeah, we got what we came for, and we did it pretty damn publicly. He said, let's get out of here before I lose my Flarknard. And then Peter says, yeah, but we can't just beat up an entire species. We can't just overthrow. And then he hears, hear me, and he's like, uh-oh.
Oh, Angela.
There's Angela with the severed head of the Badoon King. She goes, the Badoon Brotherhood is no more. Your days of enslaving and terrorizing the galaxy are over. We leave you to restructure your entire view of yourselves. You will fix what you have done or you will be destroyed. I will destroy you. The entirety of Asgard will come here and destroy you. And Peter's like, well, I guess the fight's over. And Rocket's like, yeah, I'll get the ship.
Yay, team.
No.
Go, Guardians.
And then later they're back on the ship, and looks like Angela's like hugging Ben Grimm, and meanwhile she still has Badoon blood all over her. He's like, aren't you gonna wash your hands? She's like, I will, Rockman. So then they're all like getting ready for some downtime. Then they get a call, Charlie. Guess who?
Gwenpool?
No, Carol Danvers.
Oh, that lady.
Yeah, she's telling them, we were getting some pretty crazy Badoon-related interstellar transmissions about you. She goes, you guys seem to be making friends all over the place. But then the issue ends with her saying, listen, if you're not too busy, I could use your help here back on Earth. And they're like, why? What's happening? She goes, it's Tony Stark. He's gone off the rails. I'm going to need all the help I can get.
Dun, dun, dun.
And I'm guessing the whole team's on her side, because the next issue's cover looks like the entire team behind Captain Marvel, so...
Well, she is the boss of space, and they live in space, so,
Yes. But, it was good. It was a good tie-up. Once again, another thumbs up.
Okay, which will get me to my one book on my own this week. Rocket and Groot, number 7. Now, I have not been reading a lot of the Rocket and Groots, but this was a good one to jump in at, because it is a standalone. It's called 0 Weddings and a Funeral, and then a lot more funerals. Opens up with Rocket and Groot fighting some sort of big pink and green monstery thing. As they're fighting, the phone is ringing. Groot says, I'm going to go answer the phone. And Rocket's like, just let it ring. We got to fight this thing, yada, yada, yada. And every time that it rings, Groot picks up the phone and says, I am Groot. Person says, hello, Mr. Groot. May I speak with Rocket Raccoon? I am Groot. What? I am Groot. Who is this? Take a message. Anyway, and this gag goes on and on and on until eventually they let the voicemail pick up, in which it says, hi, you've reached, I am Groot, and Rocket Raccoon, and Rocket. We're here. We're not here right now, but please leave a I am Groot, and we'll get back with you. Have a nice day. I am Groot. Anyway, says, hello, Mr. Rocket. I think your developmentally disabled adult son might be answering the phone, but I need to speak with you about Frankie Fa. And then he shows up and says, yeah, what about Frankie? Well, he's dead. And then Groot comes in, sees that Rocket has trashed a room in their ship. Then we get a nice little flashback to Rocket meeting Frankie Fat Hands. It says, It says, some people call me Frankie Fat Hands. Those people are mean. Because you see his very big, purple, bulbous hands. And Frankie's the one who taught Rocket how to grift. And you see them stealing stuff and lying to people and sending Nigerian prince emails and the whole 9 yards. And they get to welcome to Really Just Okay Renovia. And they open up with, they have a person, this is a running gag. He says, Frankie was a kind, caring soul, such a tragic loss, who will live on in our smiles and songs. I am Groot. And then Rocket doesn't say anything, a lot of fun little sight gags, and all of a sudden, who should pop out of the grave? It's Frankie. He says, I owed money to some people. Well, actually, first they're running for a train, and then when they get on the train, Frankie falls off. We get another funeral for Frankie. Rocket's under arrest for being the prime suspect. Rocket and Groot escape because they see Frankie, because Frankie keeps on putting on a wig. Then Frankie chokes and dies. Then you get a nice little running gag here about Frankie dying. And then the final thing is, because Frankie tells him that he owes money to the Slug. So he says, so I took out a series of life insurance policies on myself, but he keeps squeezing me for more and more. And if he doesn't get it, says, well, why didn't you say so? We could have helped. No, I can't let you get involved. You don't understand. No mullah squeezes my friend without getting squeezed back. And then they find out that the next day Freddy has been killed. They confirm that it's him from his dental records. The Slug wrote his name on the wall, and they do a nice little gag there. And so Rocket and Groot go break into the Slug's lair, only for the Slug to say, "But I'm not a bad guy. I'm actually a philanthropist." And it says, "No, you've got an eye patch." It says, "Because I'm half blind. Look at my awards." And they have a wall of really good guy awards. Although I will say that Wilson Fisk has the same wall in his house. That man is always giving money away to charity. I'm just saying, just being a philanthropist doesn't mean you're a nice guy. Look at Tony Stark. Anyway, but then it's revealed that actually, Frankie Fat Hands actually had come there with the 2 cops who had arrested Rocket to empty out the Slug's vault. He had left his dentures there to give that confirmation. And just then, the big pink and green monster from the first scene comes up, disrupts the day. The cops surrender because they don't want to get knocked out again. Because if they do, they might not ever wake up. And then you see that the cops are in chains. Frankie Fat Fingers are in chains. And poor Rocket is dead. But then we see Rocket in a wig. That was the ongoing gag. The final bit says, bring. It says, answer that. And Rocket says to Groot, answer that and I'll kill you. And next issue, Rocket Raccoon and Groot, Civil War II tie-in. And who do they see?
Who?
Gwenpool.
Oh.
So, very excited about that next issue. Big thumbs up. It was a fun book. I do remember now why I do enjoy Rocket and Groot, and I'm glad I do get it. And even if my kids don't read it, I think I'm still going to keep on reading it.
All right. Well, then I guess I'll go to my last book on my own, Civil War II Amazing Spider-Man #2. This was a good one. I like this one. I didn't dislike last issue, but I liked this one a lot better. I mean, this was probably close to a pick of the week. It starts off in Long Island City. Peter, Spider-Man, is fighting. It's a new Quintronic Man.
You there?
Yes. Do you hear me,
Phil?
Yes. Civil War II.
He's a menace, I tell you.
Well, he's fighting a new Quintronic Man.
Phil?
What? Spider-Man's fighting a new Quintronic Man. He webs up
Quintronic Man.
I guess it was some kind of old robot, because it looks like it has is it 4 or 5 pilots in it, and I guess the original one fought the Hulk. I guess it's like a suit of armor with like 4 or 5 different drivers. I guess they say the original one fought the Hulk to a standstill.
Parents and his dad thinks that menace Peter Parker is stiffing him.
Okay, so you saw the whole battle with the Quintronic Man, and
Won't need that explained anymore.
Oh yeah, and Peter, sabotages the armor thanks to information from Ulysses. You saw that.
Yes, I saw that.
Okay.
So do you want to jump back and start your review?
Or no, I just started recording again, so I mean we could just.
Okay,
that's fine.
I don't want our fans to get lost when we splice it all together. That's all.
I know, but yeah, like you said, then Quentin Cole is talking to his parents, and yeah, you're smarter than Peter Parker. Why is he stiffing you? And he's like, basically, Peter Parker did me a favor. I was on parole and no one would give me a job. So that's the part you got to is him talking to his parents.
Yeah, that's where I've gotten so far.
Okay, yeah, and well. And did you see he asked them
So what happens next, Phil?
Well, he asked them for his grandmother's engagement ring, and they said, "Oh, are you going to propose?" He's like, "Maybe not right this second," but he says he just wants it just in case. Then his girlfriend, who works at Parker Industries, is telling him she thinks they should break it off because she has a daughter, and what if she learns about his past life, or is it a son or daughter? I don't know. Well, she has a child, and she's like, well, what if they see...
Is she prejudiced against supervillains?
I don't know. So she breaks it off, so of course Clayton's now not in a good mood. So, yeah, so his girlfriend breaks up with him, he's all upset. Then him and some of the other guys see Spider-Man come walking through with Ulysses, and they're all like, what's up with... they're like, what's up with the new intern getting all the attention from Mr. Parker and Spider-Man, and they're like, oh, he must be somebody important, and the guy Clayton's talking to is he Thor's nephew or something?
Sort of.
But then later in the hall, Clayton sees Spider-Man and Ulysses looking at him, and he's like, what's going on? He's like, why is Spider-Man spending so much new time with the intern? And then later on, Peter shows up in Clayton's office, and he tells him that if he needs to talk about anything, his door's always open, literally or digitally. And I guess someone must have said Peter Parker had a teleconference with Ulysses. He's like, he had a teleconference with a kid from when he was like less than 2 hours away by plane. He's like, what's going on here? So I guess Clayton invented this device that he could pick up sound waves from like conversations people had, I don't know how long ago, like minutes or hours beforehand.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so he goes into Peter's office and uses the device and hears Spider-Man and Ulysses talking about how Ulysses had a vision, and he sees Clayton in costume fighting Spider-Man, and Peter comes into Spider-Man and says, what are you doing? And Clayton goes off with him, and he says, you're going to take the word of some punk who can't even grow facial hair, someone you don't even know, that I'm going to go bad? And Peter's like, it's not that simple. He has these powers. And Clayton says, I don't care if he's Captain America. I helped you against Zodiac. The whole time I've been here. I followed the rules. And Spider-Man says, actually, you haven't. You used your Clash tech more than once. He's like, that's a violation of your parole, and you broke into Peter's office. So Clayton quits, and he says, stay out of my life. And Spider-Man says, oh man, I did not just self-fulfilling prophecy myself.
He certainly did, and we are seeing this as the ongoing theme with Ulysses.
Yeah, and so Clayton goes to Moynihan Social Club. I guess it's like a bar for villain,
Yeah,
villain thugs.
It's a villain pub.
Yeah, but not for the big villain.
Well, they need a place like.
Yeah. So he gets approached by an old Spider-Man villain, Mendel Stromm.
Oh. I know that name. I can't remember what he did, but I know that name.
He was the guy who Norman Osborn originally double-crossed to get the company.
Oh, okay. Oh, man.
Then he was the robot master.
Classic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he looks like part cyborg now. But he wants Clayton's help. He tells him Parker Industries is one of the few places he can't get into digitally. So he says he just wants Clayton to help him get him into their mainframe and help him get some of their secrets so he can get to the market before them. And he says, when Parker inevitably discovers the intrusion, all signs will point to Harry Osborn. So Mendelstrom would love to point the finger at his old enemy's son. All right, well, like I said, Robot Master asked Cole to help him get in, and Cole's like, he's like, no. And Robot Master says, well, you'll find my number in your phone, give me a call. And later, Parker Industries, Peter's talking to Harry, and he's saying she's trying to find Cole, or Clayton, because he said, if Clayton wants the seed money to start his own company, I'll give it to him. He's like, I just had to watch out for my investors. He's like, was I a real jerk? Even with the parole thing. And Harry's like, well, it was the next Goblin. I can tell you have faith in your friends, and you want the best for everyone. He says, just watch out for Clayton. That whole super powered, costume villain thing is the most addictive thing of all. So Peter's waiting for Clayton to call back, but then meanwhile the issue ends with him. He shaved the beard off, and looks like he's thinking about his life. He calls the Tinkerer for a new costume, Charlie, so he puts it on at the end, and then he calls Strom back, and he says, let's set up a meet.
Oh, no. Self-fulfilling prophecies.
Exactly.
That's all Ulysses does, man.
That's what I was going to say. Would Ulysses' prediction have come to pass if Ulysses hadn't made the prediction?
Oh, no, exactly. Well, that's the thing. Like, had Ulysses not made the prediction at the... the only one that you can really make a strong argument for... Well, you can make a strong argument for several of them, I'm sure. Mm. But, had he not predicted Thanos fighting the heroes wouldn't have fought Thanos. Thanos would have arrived somewhat unopposed, But then again, all things being equal, that was a net positive, one imagines. Especially if they hadn't cleared out the end matter at that time. But, you do get this reality that what he's seeing is stuff that includes him telling people what he sees.
Yes.
Yes. Anyway. Oh, Clayton.
Like I
That's
said,
so bad. That's so sad.
I liked it better than the first issue. It was a big thumbs up. It was probably close to a pick of the week, but not quite.
Okay, so what do we want to go to next? Because now we've got all books we've both read.
Do you want to do one of the ones you bought physically?
Yeah, sure. I'll let's see here. You want to do... Let's see here. Let's do Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Nice little movie tie-in.
Okay.
What'd you think of this one, Phil?
I liked it. It was a nice tie-in to Civil War. You got Tony Stark. You got some big happenings for the S.H.I.E.L.D. team, especially Coulson.
Oh yeah. Well, so when we're opening this up, we've got we're down in Stamford, Connecticut, where, as luck would have it, a satellite's about. Well, no, actually, they're just tracking the satellite from there. But I think it's going to be hitting somewhere near Stamford, Connecticut. They're at the training facility. You see the Jim Hammond statue there. This is the old initiative training facility where the old Avengers recruits started out. Anyway, an old Hydra satellite is about to crash down. And they need to keep this out of the hands of those who would exploit it. As Lisa Simpson once said to his mom, Mom, Dad is holding a device that could be very dangerous in the wrong hands, and he's holding it. And who should show up to hold the item that could be dangerous in the wrong hands? The Pentagon. Oh, military people, we don't trust you. At least if you're in S.H.I.E.L.D., but of course S.H.I.E.L.D., no one trusts them either. So it's a mutually fulfilling negative relationship. Anyway, the military people basically managed to subdue Mockingbird, Deathlock, Melinda May, and Fitz, because primarily they're not going to fight. They're not going to fight the army, because this is all politics negotiation. And then you get Phil talking to Hill, and you know Hill is just so evil, man. They are just playing up how much of a difficult person she is. So you just know she's on the wrong side of every argument. You find out that Quake, Daisy Johnson, has left Phil's team because his protocols included how to take out her, Melinda May, etc. But Hill sends Phil on a mission to catch Tony Stark because he's just kidnapped. This takes place apparently in between the events of, I think it was Civil Wars 2, number 2, I think, when Tony had kidnapped Ulysses. They go to an underwater... Tony Stark had an underwater base. Who knew? Stark underwater R&D facility, Delta decommissioned. They go there. Stark's there. He says, "Of course you found me. I wanted you to find me. You really put a nano trace around me. I invented this stuff." Basically, Tony takes out everybody and he tells Phil, "Look, I want you on my side because wars are coming." Which I still don't get how wars are coming. And I really have to say that. I really don't. But we find out at the end of this that, Hill knows that Phil talked to Tony, that, yes, Tony overpowered everyone, but Phil didn't do anything to really capture him. What Phil was going to do, nobody quite knows. But Hill basically fires Phil. And that is where we leave this issue. Phil Coulson, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., no longer. Dun, dun, dun. And where do we go next? Nobody knows. I liked it. I mean, it's a fun... I always love Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think this really captured the ethos of the show well. I thought it was a really good book. Mm-hmm. For what it was. It's forced into the... the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it's very much a book that's forced into its own existence, both in, assigning characters to it and then putting them in the Marvel Universe. But, I think it actually does do well in its interpretations of itself. Okay. What's your book, Phil? Why don't you give us one of the ones that you read?
Yeah, Power Man and Iron Fist number 6. It's a
This was nice.
Yeah, it was a Civil War II tie-in, of course.
Is now.
What?
Now, as everything is now. Now, the one thing that I would actually ask on, because I was not aware of either Luke Cage's beef with Rhodey or apparently She-Hulk's affinity with Iron Fist up until this moment. Were these things that were previously established, or were they stuff that's just been stuck in here? Because I remember reading Luke Cage's Avengers run, and I don't remember these scenes per se.
Yeah, I'm thinking they're brand new because I don't remember any of these events. They definitely weren't in this series at all or mentioned at all. So yeah, I'm thinking they just did that to, so it hit them harder, because of the flashback. I guess there was an argument a while back between Rhodey and Luke, and must have been a while ago because Sam Wilson was still the Falcon.
Yeah. Well, I think this was all at most probably based on because I think White Tiger's in that scene. So, yes. Assumably these are all Luke Cage's Avengers era. Yes. Because that's also when I'm guessing maybe this was maybe after they fought that Cthulhu thing. Because that's what that's what you do in the Avengers with Luke Cage, fight Cthulhu's.
Yeah, and then then we get another flashback. Iron Fist, like you were saying. I guess he shared a kiss or two with She-Hulk. So when the news came in that she was injured, it hit them hardest.
Yeah. It's sad.
Yeah, and then somebody's hunting down former villains like the Gamecock and the Mangler.
Yeah.
But I found this interesting. Was when Luke and Danny go to the Triskelion to see She-Hulk, but they can't get in, so they're talking to Carol, and she explains the whole thing with Ulysses and everything with them. And Luke and Danny had a problem with it, and they were both kind of like, I remember the last Civil War. Both of them agreed. They're like, let's just sit this one out. I'm sick of fighting my friends.
Well, yeah, because and not for nothing. Again, it's this very weird thing about what the actual fight's going to be. I mean, I'm like I said, it really hasn't coalesced for me, even after reading the most recent issue, which is, to me, I really think this is going to wind up being way more talky than fighty. I really do.
Because I'm not seeing where the fight's actually going. Because it's not like anyone's going to be rounding up superheroes. Like the last Civil War, it was about, okay, you don't want to register, you can't be a hero anymore. And if you're out doing unauthorized heroing, we're going to have to take you in. Mm-hmm. And this time it's, I don't see how the conflict really comes to blows, Mm-hmm. But maybe it's going to surprise us next issue.
Well, yeah. I mean, basically the issue, the rest of it is, some of the former villains or their families come to them want to hire Luke and Danny to help find who's been hunting them. But then the bad guys show up. There's a big fight, and then I guess the cops show up and they end up arresting Danny and some of the former villains.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I guess we'll find out next issue, because it looks like the cover of next issue is Iron Fist holding the prison bars. Look like he's melting through them.
Yeah, well, but I got them iron fists.
But I did like that part in the issue when they're just like, really, we're doing this again? I don't know if that's the writer going all meta, but I liked it. It was a big thumbs up for me.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. It was good. This was the my first Power Man Iron Fist book, and I liked it. It was a good book, Mm-hmm. It was it's nice to see Danielle and Jessica Jones at the beginning there. That was always nice, and yeah, it was a really good book. Okay, let me do Hercules, Gods of War. So, we open up and we have Sigurd and Lorelei fighting a, let's see here. What is he called? He is called I just call him Fell Serpent. So he's just some grand serpent from ancient mythos. And, as they're about to fight, the serpent tells them the uprising storm, the wretched pantheon of false new gods come to exterminate and replace all creatures of the old days. And they don't know what it is, but then, of course, just as that moment, Sigurd gets a call on his cell phone, and he says, just a moment, and the serpent says, no rush, we'll get to the battle. And, of course, then once he says all this, then they, just oblige on the battle, Maybe this is why the ancient gods don't work out quite so well. Then we come to, who is this? Theseus looking to steal the golden fleece. The cell phone goes off and the security guards find him. He goes and fights them off, and then we get west coast of Ireland. I'm not quite sure how I feel about the really heavy Cockney accent they decided to give to Beowulf. It is very weird. But we get into the whole thing, and all these ancient heroes are, throwing shade at one another. Hercules explains the brand, and then who should show up? Cryptomnesia, Horoscope, and I forget what they named their god of war. I've completely forgot his name. Cryptomnesia, Horoscope, and forgetting his name. Anyway, the god of war basically starts using his, targeting laser sights, and then Horoscope comes to use her poisonous touch against the other gods. But Ire of the Stone Age actually had already warded herself against the poisons and slugs her. And then Theseus comes in with I believe, Perseus' shield. And then Ire of the Stone Age attacks. Cryptomnesia has downloaded a bunch of Asgardian spells to use against Lorelei. Beowulf and Theseus are doing okay against the god of war, and then we get to the Triskelion, and we see Cap, Hail Hydra, and Captain Marvel observing Hercules fighting nothing. He's being so erratic, what's up with Hercules? And they do make the point that they're supposed to be watching the Hulk, but that Hercules, is a Hulk level threat when he's not paying attention. And then all of a sudden, Kryptonesia engages the God of Chaos protocol, and Hercules suddenly starts smashing stuff. And next month, Gods of War 3, Civil War 2, Heroes versus Hercules. I liked it. It was very good. Like I said, I'm not certain how I feel about some of the characterizations between Theseus and Beowulf. Don't like everyone throwing shade on poor Gilgamesh. I think this definitely is supposed to be the original Gilgamesh, not the forgotten one. Which is, I think, nicer to actually have the actual Sumerian god Gilgamesh. But yeah, I'm looking to see what happens next. As Hercules deals with the ancient gods and the new gods and the heroes he has sworn to associate with. So looking forward to see how that goes. Thumbs up.
Oh yeah, thumbs up.
Yeah.
Alright, then I guess I'll go to Old Man Logan number 8.
Oh, this was a good one.
Oh yeah, it was. It starts off, I guess, on in Logan's original timeline, like when the villains first started attacking, and they basically all the villains. Let's see, Magneto, Enchantress, Green Goblin. They basically like take out Manhattan.
Yeah, and this is so acts of vengeance.
Oh yeah,
it really is. It is so much acts of vengeance.
So then they go to X-Haven, the present, where Old Man Logan's basically thinking about, that whole thing, and Jean comes in and asks him what's wrong, and she's like, everything's different here, it's not your timeline, you never had a female Thor, and that, there was no Mpox, Magneto was still a full-on bad guy, not working with a team of X-Men. He's like, I know, he's like, but sometimes the Knights are just the worst. So, they decide to take a little road trip, because back to the flashbacks, they show, I guess, Logan remembering the night when Daredevil and the Punisher were killed in front of She-Hulk by Kraven and the Enchantress. Oh, look, Elektra's there. So Jean takes him to Manhattan and says, see, basically to show him that everything's okay, because the attack happened right at midnight, and she says, Cerebra, what's the time? Cerebra says it's 1:36 a.m. Yeah. Then she says, okay, well, that's New York, where it happened next. And he says, Pym Falls. And she says, Pym Falls?
Yeah.
And, yeah, then they show another flashback in Connecticut where Crossbones says the Avengers are down. But then we see Hank Pym still alive as, who is he, Goliath? Giant Man? Whatever. He's giant.
He's giant.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah.
And he's it looks like he takes out the Vulture. But Avalanche shakes the ground, and a bunch of the Mole Man's minions swarm over him like... I guess that's Radioactive Man saying, look, just like a bunch of ants. Now ain't that ironic? And they take Pym down, so
yeah.
Pym Falls.
That's Pym Falls, yes. Yeah, I don't think Hank Pym was ever Goliath. That was Hawkeye or Clint Barton who was Goliath. I think
I wasn't sure if he used the name or not.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that was purely Hawkeye, and then what's his name? The African American guy became Black Goliath.
Is it Bill Foster?
Bill Foster, yes. Bill Foster became Black Goliath. And then the thing said, that's kind of not a good superhero name, because first off, all know you're black, and second, wasn't Goliath a bad guy? And he says, why don't you just be Giant Man? You don't have to even change the G on your belt. That was in the Project Pegasus series. Marvel, I forget what that was called. I don't know if that was a...
Was it the Thing one? Is it Marvel 2 and 1 or something?
Yeah, I forget. But anyway, it's a great series. Anyone, always read the Project Pegasus. It's collected as a graphic novel now, so you can get it. I'm sure you can get it on Marvel Unlimited. It's really one of the best bits out there of some good late 70s, early 80s thing. Solo book, really fun when he's working at Project Pegasus. Very good. But yes, so
then Jean takes him to I guess they don't say it first, but I guess it's Westchester, because it's where the X Mansion originally was, because that was the next flashback. I guess the villains all came for the X-Men and they killed Jubilee. And then Jean says one last stop. She takes him to Madapore because did she say this was the actual night the attack happened? I know that in your time tonight is close to when the villain uprising happened, but I guess they go into a bar and who's in there? Jubilee, Steve Rogers, Clint Barton, and Puck.
Oh yeah, because they're gonna have a nice time out with Old Man Logan.
Yeah, and then I guess this is like the first reunion Jubilee's had with this Logan. So
yeah, is she a vampire still?
I don't know. Last I knew, I think she was, unless she got cured somewhere I didn't read. But that's what I thought. Maybe that's
one of those weird things with mutant books. You know, it's like with Angel, where sometimes he was Angel, and then sometimes he was Archangel. Mm-hmm. And I could never figure out, like, does he just have the ability to change back and forth, or is there X-Men and time travel? Man, what is up with those guys? They just got multiple X-Men running around all the time.
And yeah, and then the weird part, just like the issue ends with him and with Old Man Logan and Jean talking, and she's like, I'm always here to help you keep it together, and I'm like, it's just weird. It's just like all of a sudden, like this woman you had the hots for, all of a sudden you're 80 years old and she's 16 again. It's kind of weird, isn't it?
Well, and I was watching that careful because I was thinking, are they trying? They're not going to try no, they're not going to do that.
I don't think, yeah.
I really think that is much more of her being, someone who cares about this guy.
Yeah.
Because, here's the thing. This is young Jean Grey's all up in everybody's brain all the time. Uh-huh. So she knows the relationship that this Wolverine had with her older self.
Oh, yeah, and I'm sure she's seen every thought he's had about older Jean Grey, too.
Exactly. So she has this relationship with him. At the same time, at this point in Wolverine's life, he's like, you're basically... He basically is seeing her as his daughter. Yes. Now, I don't know if she sees him as more because she's getting feedback from that older self, or if she is, or if she's just being kind of, like Squirrel Girl with her and the Mole Man, where she's just trying to be nice to the guy and, things get out of hand. But, yeah, I did wonder if they were going to go that way, but I don't think I think they kept it respectable, this issue. So, yeah. But this was a very nice issue. It was a sweet issue. It was very, very much Logan dealing with his PTSD and his friends trying to help him through it, And I liked that.
So, thumbs up for me.
Thumbs up for me too. Honestly, there really was not a thumbs down this week. I really liked everything. And speaking of which, this is my pick of the week. I am going to go and give it to Gwenpool. Even above Civil War, as much as I loved Civil War 2, and as much as the real one that got real close to being my pick of the week was Daredevil, which I thought was really fantastic. But I'm just a sucker for the Gwenpool story, We open up getting trained by Batroc, who's like, yeah, you've got a real talent for guns. And she's like, yes, so long as it's a stationary target or easily trackable and you are planted firmly. And he's basically saying to her, yeah, don't get, you're going to be good, but don't get cocky. And then, although for what it's worth, she does take down Batroc with a leg sweep after he says, your hand-to-hand is worthless. And she's like, So we should not have spent so much time on, and, says, look, if we get into a close quarters fight dirty, gouge the eyes, go for the crotch, just tear at him, use explosives, do what you got to do. And basically, MODOK has been hired to take out some Atlantean terrorists who are tunneling under the city, which means that it's technically, and it's a great little bit there, but technically where they're tunneling is Port Authority property, so they don't actually so New York can't handle it on its own. So there's this whole, and then with Atlanteans, it's a whole political thing, so someone has paid us to just deal with this quietly. And so the rest of the team gets sent on the mission, but Gwenpool is held back. And MODOK basically says, I know you're a secret, yada, yada, yada. And MODOK does the whole laser blast, destroy her thing. And as he's walking away, she says, ha! Not quite so much, because I knew you were going to do that. That's why I had a little force field. But MODOK makes the point that, yes, but I know I don't pay you enough to have the force field. They do have this conversation as whether or not she has a preternatural luck. And she basically says, well, I think I'm the protagonist of this story, so I think I have a Deus Ex Machina thing going on. She makes mention to the fact that MODOK has all these clone bodies, which, again, this is stuff that, like, MODOK should go like, hey, how do you know I have all these clone bodies? She takes out MODOK's legs with a leg sweep, which we saw in the previous scene, but of course MODOK still has his rocket chair. Mm-hmm. So, as she's running away, Gwenpool pulls out her last trick, which is Cecil's skull, which is bringing Cecil back to life as her ghost buddy to ghost hack MODOK's chair and shoot him into space. And basically, the team comes back. Gwen says she sent MODOK into space for a bit, and then the client goes on the phone and says, "Greeting, agents of MODOK. I understand there's been a change in management. Gwenpool now in charge. Next issue, Gwenpool and Miles." Oh boy. Secret identities galore. I love everything about Gwenpool. I love the joyful nerdery of it all within the context of how her superpowers work. It's going to be interesting as Gwenpool goes on, because at a certain point, there's going to be stuff happening in the Marvel Universe in books she hasn't read yet. Like, for example, she came to this universe before Ulysses. She's never read any of the Civil War II books. So I can't wait to see when that knowledge base starts falling off there.
Or she doesn't know about Steve Rogers either.
No, she doesn't. She does not know about Hydra Cap. That's all stuff that happened after she stopped reading. So this is going to be interesting. And that's going to be when that power fails her. It's going to be cool how it all plays out. But yeah, I am so in love with Gwenpool. She is just absolutely one of my favorite books out there.
Yeah, this is the second issue I've read, and I thoroughly enjoy it. I just wish I had the money or the means to get this, book every month.
Yeah, well, come on, Marvel, help us out. Help a brother out. Okay.
Right. All right. Well, since you mentioned it and you said it was close, this is my pick of the week, Daredevil number 9.
Oh yeah, this was just fantastic. Why don't you give us your take on it?
Well, of course, just like the last issue, it's in Macau, just south of China. Daredevil's called Spider-Man in, and Spider-Man keeps saying he keeps making jokes about Daredevil's real name, and you're one of my oldest and most trusted colleagues in the superhero biz. He keeps saying that, but
yes,
so something's up. But yeah, so Daredevil said he called him in to help him get a attaché case out of I guess a safe that's in a penthouse in this casino that's guarded by all the triads. So they go back down to Daredevil's room, and Spider-Man sees the check made out to Laurent Levesser. He's like, "Is that you?" Daredevil's like, "Nope." They break in, they fight the triad. One of them grabs the briefcase, he makes it into a door, and Spider-Man's like, "Don't worry, I can have us into that panic room in no time." And Daredevil's like, "It's not a panic room, it's an elevator." So they make for the window. Daredevil hears a helicopter about to take off, so he says, "Let's make for the roof." Spider-Man's about to swing up. Daredevil tackles him and says, "Snipers on the roof. They would have fired the moment either one of us stuck our head up there." Oh. Then they see the helicopters taking off. So But Spider-Man says, well, you know how some people get from Macau to Hong Kong. Some fly, but that's expensive. Most people take the hydrofoils.
Mm-hmm.
He's like gliding on the back of the hydrofoil with his webbing, and Daredevil's like, aren't you afraid someone will see you? Spider-Man says, nah, let him look. I'm amazing.
Yes, he is.
They gets Daredevil to do it too. Until they get there, and he's telling him to watch out for those black costume phases. He's like, I've been there. He says, you have to do that stuff every once in a while, though. Find the joy in what you are and what you can do. Otherwise, well, down that road lies Punisher Town.
Mm-hmm.
And then Spider-Man tells him how he got a spider tracer on the briefcase. And this is new. I don't think he's mentioned this before, that the new spider tracers can blend in with whatever they're stuck to, so it's harder to see.
Yeah, well, he's got that Miles Morales tech going there with the camouflage mode. Is that tech on Miles, or is that he has like some? Well, I guess it has to be tech because it does on the suit. It's not like he's naked and blending in. So
I don't know. I think Miles's is like natural or like biological.
That doesn't make any. Why would his? I don't know.
I don't know why the suit would go. Yeah, I don't know why the suit would go invisible too. But anyway, so Daredevil and Spider-Man fighting the Triad. They're fighting the Triads in another warehouse or penthouse. It looks like Daredevil tells Spider-Man to get the case out. So Spider-Man takes it to the roof. He has it on top of a pool. Daredevil's like, toss me the case, and Spider-Man's like, no. Daredevil's, excuse me. He's like, Spider-Man's like, we went through quite a bit to get this, and you've been real quiet about it. He's like, I could just rip it open, but it could be something deadly or fragile, or both. He's like, what's in the case? Daredevil tries to knock it down, but Spider-Man grabs it with webbing and whips it back up. They're arguing over it, and Spider-Man says, well, when you called me, to come down here, I had a lot of memories of our adventures and stuff we've gone through the years, but they feel incomplete, like they aren't the whole picture, like a jigsaw puzzle within like half its pieces. And he thought, gee, that surely is odd, considering that you are one of my oldest and most trusted colleagues in the superhero biz. Once again, we were talking about, hypocrites. I'm like, didn't Peter Parker wipe everybody's memory of his identity?
Well, yeah, but that's the whole thing. It was like right now he knows something's going on, but he doesn't know, and see, to me, this was what I loved about this issue. First off, the banter is top notch throughout. It is just like one of the best banter books I've ever read. What I love about this is that when Daredevil comes clean, Pete's like, oh, okay. Because he knows something's up, but he doesn't know what. But as soon as Daredevil says, hey, people found out my identity, I had to fix that, Pete's like, oh, yeah, no, sure, I've been there. Yeah, I made a deal with the devil, made a deal with Doctor Strange, whichever I remember. Yeah, totally been there, totally done that. Did you have a dying aunt you had to save too? That was my big catalyst. But, it is just this idea that, once it's out there, Peter accepts it. Because, yeah, he does know. He's been there. And I like that aspect. That unlike a gentleman we'll see in Civil War II, here's a guy who recognizes when he recognizes his own hypocrisy and does not seek to hypocritize it. Anyway.
So basically the only thing that's left is then Daredevil tells him, after he tells him about the whole identity thing, he tells him what's in the case. It's basically information gathered by the Black Cat on most of her competitors in the New York criminal underworld. She uses it to cement her power base. I want to use it as part of a larger plan to get rid of all of them. And he said, I've been working on this for a very long time. Getting my secret identity back was a big part of it. He said, tell Spider-Man that's why he needs the case. So Spider-Man basically gives him the case back and says, watch out for those black costume phases. They can really do a number on you.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely big thumbs up on this book. It was well worth the read. Well time. Okay. So let's do New Avengers next. So we open up. 1 second. Actually, I have to get this one off of my Comixology account because I left the actual physical book at work today. We open up. Agent Gold is in the helicarrier Pericles talking to Agent Garrett. There is the Dum Dum Dugan LMD who's saying part of the team, and Songbird takes them out pretty quickly, but then you find out that all the other LMDs of the Dum Dum Dugan variety have come online and are on the attack. Meanwhile, back in the Savage Land, DaCosta is watching the news feed. He's seeing Barton on trial for what we'll see happened in Civil War II. Sam Guthrie Cannonball is trying to be, nice, saying it's not our fault that, he's in jail. He made his choices. As meanwhile, they get a call from Songbird, basically saying her cover's been blown. Oh, and by the way, just to give you the update here, because I kind of buried the lead on this, the reason why the Dum Dum Dugans are attacking this Songbird is because one of Ulysses' visions, he saw a news feed of Songbird giving the eulogy at DaCosta's funeral. So that's how they know she's some sort of triple agent, and that's why they attack her. Although we also know that Garrett is a bad guy straight up, because he's taken over the Dum Dum Dugan LMDs. Although I will say this, that if she's taking out all these LMDs, that actually, since Dum Dum Dugan wants to die, that's actually a pretty decent thing. Helps him out. She comes to. She's been depowered. Garrett is holding a gun to her head. Meanwhile, Power Man and Dr. Positron, which is Dr. Max Brashear, get into what amounts to basically two stealth pods that are going to be pulled by Sam Guthrie as he cannonballs out. And just at that time, DaCosta says, after all, with you three gone, there's never been a better time for an attack. And who should be listening in? The Maker, a.k.a. an evil alternate reality. Mr. Fantastic runs his own evil science cult. Main power, he comes in slices. And he says, he can't stop himself, can he? He just keeps on saying things like that. And I thought this is a very interesting bit here, just because there is an interesting thing going on in the Marvel universe right now with an awareness of its own fictionality. You see this in Gwenpool, but it does come up in other things. And, as we're going into the new Shattered Marvel now, I do wonder how much it's going to play out. Anyway, and of course, the Maker himself had made a comment in earlier issues about how the laws of physics in this universe are different, how they're more fantastic. And one wonders if that might even relate to the psychology of people in this universe. We get a nice little thing here where you realize that Tony Ho has realized that Pod, the reason why the person within Pod can't come out is because if she comes out, then Pod will reset, and it will essentially wipe out the sentience of the Pod being. And of course, that's the moment when the Maker chooses to attack. He's got a weird Martian creature as part of his Revengers who attacks Tony Ho, and the Maker says, "You're dead." And that is the end of that. Next issue, New Avengers versus New Revengers, and on the cover, an army of Dum Dum Dugans versus AIM, led by that evil Maria Hill. Thumbs up for this book. I really liked it. What'd you think, Phil?
Yeah, I really liked it too. This was once again, this was like the first New Avengers I've read, and yeah, I found it interesting. I was like, Yeah, these Avengers are a lot different than the other ones. I thought a lot of these guys are new. Maybe it's like that won't be that good of Avengers book, but it seems like the Avengers team that mostly has their head on their shoulders, other than the other teams.
Yes, indubitably. Okay, and we just have the one book left now, or do you have another one?
No, I have one more before Civil War. I got Deadpool 15.
Oh, this was a good one. Yes.
Yes, it was.
Very.
Yeah, it opens up with the Mercs for Money, like going through his office looking for their money, and they figure out that Deadpool's been skimming off the top, and he has a safety deposit box, of course, in New Jersey, Charlie.
Oh, Hocus! It's a lovely town. If you ever get the chance to go out to it.
So they decide to go get his safety deposit box because Deadpool's busy breaking into the Triskelion, Charlie.
Yes.
He's like he's just muttering to himself like, Ulysses, do you see me coming to put a bullet between your eyes? And Ulysses basically, once he gets to Ulysses, he basically tells him, no, I don't see that stuff, because Wade even asks him about his daughter, and he says, I don't even know you had a daughter. All I see is, the big disasters, the Michael Bay scale stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then he puts his gun away. He's like, okay, I decided I won't kill you, but I reserve the right to change my mind. And then Ulysses points to him on one of the screens, the Mercs for Money breaking into his safety deposit box. So he goes to take off, and who does he run into?
T'Challa.
The Black Panther. And basically, Wade says he has to find the bathroom, and he's like, I was just having fun in there with the new Ultimate Watcher. And T'Challa says, he said this a couple times too, he says, Rogers trusts you, I do not.
Yes. You know what I really liked about this is when we get into this fight scene, you get into this very, one of the things that's kind of interesting about Ambush Bug is the fact that when he does engage other heroes, like not Captain America, like Superman or Wonder Woman, they all tend to get sucked into Ambush Bug's reality, where they, even though they don't cross the full metafictional line, they become reactive to the laws of comedy that Ambush Bug are laying down. And here I really feel that you see a little bit of that with T'Challa as Deadpool's talking. You sort of see him kind of coming right up into Deadpool's own madness. And I really enjoyed that aspect of this.
Yeah, it just seemed like every line's a joke, even when it seemed like Black Panther tried to be the straight man. It just fed in the Deadpool's material. Like, some of the best lines, it's just Deadpool, I haven't seen so much drama over a bathroom since I was in North Carolina.
Classic.
And then when he's in the men's room, when Black Panther says, I don't know what Rogers sees in you. Perhaps he's been horribly brainwashed.
Yes. Wink, wink, right to the camera.
I know, and then he opens the stall and he says, Von Doom's handsome face, what madness is this?
Yes. Exactly. And it's like, he is so pulled into Deadpool's fractured world. And I do, when we get to Super Connectivity, we're going to talk about this, is how many of the Mercs for Money are branching out into their own books in the new Marvel Now. And I do have to think that maybe something is going on with that fictionality, that there's going to be, and I'm really excited about it, because I get the feeling whatever they're actually going to pull out of their tuchus at the end of this is going to be pretty amazing. That's my thinking on it. I could be dead wrong, but that's my thinking on it.
But yeah, I mean, Deadpool just seems to affect everyone around him. Like Black Panther, this issue, Deadpool kicks him in the crotch. Black Panther answers in kind and kicks him in the crotch.
Yeah, and what else you have in that is just this idea that, up until recently, Deadpool has not really been existing in this realm. He's been crazy, but he hasn't been metafictional crazy. And then just recently we've had a couple issues where, hey, we're back to old metafictional Deadpool, And now we're getting really, literally metafictional Deadpool, and he's pulling other people into his madness. And especially with Black Panther, who is in the Ultimates, who has recently witnessed the chaining of eternity to the sliding time scale, you gotta say, are they playing some three-dimensional story chess with us here, or what's going on?
Maybe. I don't know if it's that.
You know what I mean, Phil?
Yeah, I don't know if it's that or if the writers just pick and choose, when they want him to be that way.
Anyway, we can get into that depth on super connectivity this week.
But yeah, no, Deadpool was good. It was almost my pick of the week, so
yes,
very big thumbs up.
Yeah, and just for what it's worth, we do get to in Ho-Hocus, the NJ.com, the Star Ledger's website. They did a great little ad. Actually, no, it was BuzzFeed. Did a great little piece about is it a Pokemon or a city in New Jersey? It's harder than it sounds, really. I'm going to tell you right now, we got some weird named cities here in New Jersey. But yes, Ho-Hocus is a real city in New Jersey. The Mercs did go there. They did find their stuff, and they make reference to something that I'm not quite sure what they're referencing there, which is they say, oh, look, it's the tape of Deadpool in DC that made him such a big star. And Solo says, that wasn't really him. That was me. Mm-hmm. Which is interesting. And I'm wondering what happened in DC. When we get to our 8 months, it's going to be interesting exactly what occupied those 8 months.
They're going to say maybe they're going to say every action that made Deadpool like the famous, the most well-respected, most famous superhero in the world right now. Every action that precipitated that was done by the Mercs for money.
Maybe. Except, the other Mercs are confused by this because they say, well, we weren't formed yet. We weren't the Mercs for money yet. So, so it's interesting. And then, of course, Deadpool shows up and takes them all out. But what I was actually thinking about that is, the last big thing where someone became a hero in DC was. That was Secret Invasion, when Norman Osborn, the Queen. And if you remember the Secret Invasion Deadpool tie-in, the data that Deadpool stole was how you can kill the Queen, that Norman Osborn took to make him. So I'm wondering when it makes this very interesting question. What when Franklin put things back, we know he did not put everything back where it belongs. So what happened in DC with Deadpool, and it's going to be interesting. Although someone didn't make a very funny bit about that, like, was that secret data you stole to shoot the Queen in the head? It's like, well, maybe. It's classic Deadpool. But big thumbs up for this. Big thumbs up for Deadpool. I really feel we're moving towards something big. And that brings us to our last book of the week, Civil War number 3. Civil War 2, number 3. Wow. This is a pretty good book. One thing that I kind of find interesting is, this is just me, but they're doing interesting things with Carol's hair. They seem to have now settled on the idea that Carol's hair is actually cut short. When they first started drawing the new Carol, they actually had her hair pulled back. And you kind of see, and sometimes when they're drawing her with her hair pulled back. But it seems like they're kind of, most artists are just saying, no, her hair is just short. So that's interesting. We get to see her in her full Air Force uniform, which is nice. And who is prosecuting Hawkeye, Phil?
Matt Murdock.
Yes. And poor Hawkeye doesn't even have She-Hulk there to defend him. Who's another good lawyer in he should have either Puglisi or Book from Kurtzberg Kurtzberg, Lieber, and Book. That would be nice. Goodman, Kurtzberg, Lieber, and Book. That's the name of the law firm. They specialize in superhero law.
I don't think they're working together. I don't think they're working together now. What if it was Foggy Nelson?
Oh, Foggy would be good. And or actually, you know who they should have is the lawyer from Jessica Jones.
Hogarth.
Who's a man in this universe, but who knows? Maybe now he's a lesbian too. It works. Because Franklin didn't put anything back where he found it. Because he's like 10 and he's a kid, and I have a 10-year-old. They do not put things back where they find them, you know. I am always finding candy wrappers strewn about my house, little Go-Gurt wrappers, and that's what Franklin does. He's, you know, there's Go-Gurt wrappers everywhere. Anyway, so we open up where Carol is telling what happened, and what it was Carol and Tony together go to confront Banner about this. And, you know, they come out and everybody's there. We've got X-Men, we've got Inhumans, we've got Avengers, we got the whole gaggle. We've got S.H.I.E.L.D. and, you know, possibly actual military folks. And they confront Banner. And you actually see Tony's like, because Banner's like, yes, I've been experimenting on myself. This is what's been keeping the Hulk at bay. And Tony's like, for goodness sakes, you know the risks and you're experimenting on yourself. What the heck is wrong with you? Why didn't you come to me, to Hank? Either of the Hanks, actually, no, one of the Hanks is currently in Ultron, but either Hank McCoy or Tony Stark, Bruce Banner could have come to either of these people, could have freaking come to any of the other hundreds of super geniuses in the Marvel Universe, could have gone to Doom, could have gone to Fiona Fitzhugh. My favorite super genius doesn't get enough play. She's currently dating the Gibbon. At least she was the last we saw her. Anyway, Bruce starts getting angry, and we wouldn't like him when he's angry. And then, hey, what color arrow is that, Phil?
Green.
A green arrow. I just thought funny. Although actually this is an interesting point because we see it's purple and green. And purple and green, as we know, is the color of villainy.
Or the Hulk.
It's also the color of the Hulk. But and it was the color of Hawkeye when he was a villain. Although Hawkeye has always done purple, which is why Hawkeye has always been a little bit questionable as to whether or not he's a hero or a villain. But Arrow comes, takes out Banner, and we do see green blood everywhere. And this is, I think this is kind of an interesting point in this, because we can see that blood splatter, that's green. And you see Hawkeye, he puts out his arms, he says, I'm under arrest. We see some of the younger heroes being like, what the heck? Then we get a flashback of Banner talking to Hawkeye, where basically Banner has designed the arrow to kill him, and he gives it to Hawkeye and saying, if I'm ever Hulk out again, or if it looks like I'm hulking out, you do this, and this will take me out. And Hawkeye says, Banner wanted me to kill him. This was what Banner designed. And Hank McCoy says, yes, this is exactly what it was. This was designed by Banner. This was designed to kill the Hulk. And, you know, it's very, this is how the Ulysses thing comes out. We see all of the good that following Ulysses is done. Tony Stark makes his big statement in court. Had they not confronted Banner, he wouldn't. But it is an interesting point here. You know, when they're when they're interrogating Hawkeye on this, he says, I saw it. His eyes flecked green. I knew he was transforming. That's my whole thing, is I see things other people don't. My eyesight is just that good. But when they cut to that picture, we can see his eyes aren't green. Mm-hmm. It's an interesting thing. Does Hawkeye see it, or does he not? We know that when the arrow hits him, it's green blood. But when he says he saw the green in his eyes, when we see the picture, there's no green in his eyes.
Or does he think he saw it because he heard the vision, what the what the prophecy was.
It is very interesting, and we see, Tony says who's next on the hit list. Our three youngest Avengers, Ms. Marvel, Spider-Man, and Nova, all say, I think we're with Iron Man. And then Tony's in his lab, and Friday has finished mapping Ulysses' brain patterns when he had a vision, and Tony says, "Show me," and he says, "Oh my God." Mary Jane says, "What is that?" And Tony says, "It's our future." Bum bum bum. Yeah. Really a great thumbs up. I would say, the reason why I think Gwenpool is my pick of the week, and, maybe even why Daredevil is your pick of the week too, is I think that those are a little more joyful books. Yes. This is a very somber Law and Order book. And that's why I say I really think this Civil War is going to be a lot more Law and Order, a lot less actual bish and bang. I think it is going to be a Civil War of words. Because if you think about it, we use the term Civil War to mean political disagreements all the time. I do think this is just a political disagreement, and that's going to be the thrust of it. I mean, we may get some people throwing down here and there. Basically, you'll get barroom brawls here and there between heroes on opposite sides of this. But I think that the crux of it is going to be this deep psychological conversation about, when people have to make these choices in this split moment, when they're looking at something, and how much of their actions are prejudice and how much of their actions are real. And you think about like right now with, a lot in the news, without to get too political, it's a lot in the news about police officers shooting people because they felt threatened. And in this situation, you have Hawkeye shooting the Hulk because he thinks he sees something. Mm-hmm. He thinks something is happening. And he takes the shot. And maybe it was really a righteous shot. Maybe people in that jury room are saying, hey, that was a Hulk, man. I don't care if he says he's been cured. How many times has the Hulk been cured? Only to go back to being the Hulk. Not for nothing with the Hulk, there always was this thing where he'd get all cured and then he'd be like, oh, but now I gotta go be the Hulk again so that I can save the day. And, people gotta say, really, Bruce, you gotta save the day. No one else can save the day. Really, Bruce, you gotta go be the Hulk again.
And here's my question. In this issue, Banner said the only reason he hasn't hulked out is because he's been experimenting on himself. But meanwhile, in the last two issues of Totally Awesome Hulk, they've showed, in previous issues, they showed Amadeus Cho took all the gamma out of him and put it in himself. And even this last issue, they did all kinds of tests on him, even Bruce himself, and supposedly he was completely gamma free and he seemed at peace with himself at the end of the issue.
Yeah, or what this is saying is he really wasn't gamma free. That he tests his gamma free, and basically, and not for nothing, here are the two lines on this conversation. One is that yes, actually he was gamma free, but he's so obsessed with it that he keeps on having to tinker. And part of it is at the end of because here's the thing about the Hulk, and what we got in that last episode of Awesome Hulk is Banner talking about how, the monster in him is different than what's in Cho. But more to the point, as we saw in Peter David's run, the Hulk existed in Banner long before
the gamma bomb, yeah.
So the Hulk is there. The Hulk wants out. There was a great what if about essentially where you have this idea that Banner was the Hulk and that the Hulk was Banner. It was like this where, like, after the gamma explosion, rather than becoming the Hulk, Banner sort of becomes this being of pure light because it's the goodness of Banner. and that Banner is actually the monster, and you have him beating on Betty and being this monster without the strength. And this idea that the Hulk and Banner aren't really two separate beings, that the Hulk is a part of Banner that he just wants to deny, but that he actually secretly wants to be. The psychology of the Hulk it has been so well explored over the years. It is such a very fascinating character. We're kind of sad to see him go. We'll have to see what happens next, because for nothing, Gamma people have a tendency to come back. Most notably, the leader came back. General Ross is coming back, and of course, Doc Samson. Back from the dead, even though the Hulk recently dug him up just to make sure he was dead. He was still dead, but now he's back. So you can see why the Hulk is being used as a character here in this. And I do think that there is this very interesting political parallel with the idea of police officers in dangerous situations making judgments that you can see as being the totally wrong judgment, but that other people might say, well, it's the whole Osborn was right crowd, of which I was often a member, I'll be honest with you. Because I do think these superheroes are a menace, and someone needs to rein these guys in. I don't think it should be a dark reign, but you do need some kind of rein in on the superheroes. This idea that, Hulks are dangerous. And maybe it's not the worst idea to, be ready for a Hulk out, even if we're not 100% certain a Hulk out is happening. At the same time, we just killed a guy. And Hawkeye just killed a guy. Which is another interesting thing with Hawkeye, is how much more comfortable he's come with killing recently. And I actually kind of think, there's the statement from the Daredevil movie, which the second season of Daredevil, where basically the Punisher says to Daredevil, face it, buddy, you're just one bad day from becoming me. And I'm wondering if Hawkeye just has had his bad day. That between Dark Reign, between Secret Invasion, Dark Reign, Civil War, all these
basically getting killed and disassembled and basically resurrected after House of M.
Yeah, well, then that was a whole other thing. And that's another interesting question about Franklin not putting things back where he found them, and how much of Ultimate Hawkeye came through when Hawkeye came back. Because not for nothing, Hawkeye died at the end of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see Doom saving him. I see Doom saving, Sue and Johnny and Ben, because, he's Doom and he's all obsessed. But I don't necessarily see him saving a Hawkeye. So when Franklin puts a Hawkeye back, where do you get that Hawkeye? And these are all things we'll discuss this week in Super Connectivity. Be sure to tune in. Okay, Phil. I think that's everything. Lots of thumbs up this week.
Oh yeah, lots of good stuff. Alright, well, if you want to share your thoughts with us on any or all of these books, you can always email us, marvelroundup@gmail.com. Facebook is All New Marvel Roundup. Our Twitter is @Marvel_Roundup. And our shared Instagram is World's Finest Roundup. And remember to search for me, Phil Parrish, on Pinterest. You'll find boards for this podcast and all the other ones I do. And Charlie, where can people find you on the internet?
Well, you can always tweet along with me on the Twitters @CharlieEsser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for quality. And of course, write to me in that old-fashioned email way, as our good friend Mr. Smyson once again has, at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com.
And you can always get a hold of me to discuss anything Marvel or DC, nightwingpdp@gmail.com. On Twitter, I'm @nightwingpdp. And check out my website, philparrish.wordpress.com. Whew, well, we finally got through, Charlie. After all the technical difficulties, all the books, we finally made it.
Huzzah!
So come back next week and join us, because we're done with Roundup for for this week, everyone, because let's face it, me and Charlie both have splitting headaches, but not as bad as Bruce Banner's.
Ooh, too soon.